Welcome to a special broadcast that will undoubtedly go down as one of the definitive moments of the 2026 Australian Open. We often talk about the changing of the guard in tennis. We use phrases like upset and shocker so frequently that they sometimes lose their weight. But what we witnessed today at Melbourne Park was not just a tennis match. It was a seismic shift. It was a collision between the established, ironclad hierarchy of women's doubles and the unyielding, fearless force of the next generation. If you're a fan of Japanese tennis, if you are a follower of the tactical mastery that Shuko Aoyama has displayed for over a decade, today is a day of stunned silence. The headline is as simple as it is unbelievable. The former world number 4, the titan of Japanese doubles, Shuko Aoyama, has fallen. But it is how she fell and who orchestrated this dismantling that has sent shockwaves from Tokyo to Manila and all the way to Rio de Janeiro. Alexandra EALA, Ingrid Martens, two names that before today were viewed by the pundits as a dangerous unseeded pair at best, a potential hurdle. But today, they weren't just a hurdle. They were the wall. They were the storm. In a match that defied the odds, defied the rankings, and defied the logic of experience, the Filipino-Brazilian coalition has knocked out the seeded heavyweights. Shuko Aoyama and her partner Magda Linette in a contest that can only be described as a tactical masterclass disguised as a brawl. Japan is in shock. The tennis world is scrambling to check the stats. And the Philippines? The Philippines is celebrating yet another milestone in the meteoric rise of their golden girl. You have to understand the gravity of this. Shuko Aoyama is not just a player. In the world of doubles, she is an institution. With over 20 career titles, a Wimbledon semifinal appearance, and a reputation for being one of the craftiest, most intelligent net players in the history of the modern game, Aoyama represents the pinnacle of tennis IQ. She is the player who doesn't overpower you. She outthinks you. She is the chess grandmaster on a court full of checker players. Entering this Australian Open, the expectation was a deep run. The expectation was consistency. And then she met Alex EALA. We know EALA as a singles prodigy, the U.S. Open junior champion, the girl who carries the weight of a nation on her shoulders every time she steps onto the baseline. But today we saw a different EALA. We saw EALA the partner, paired with Brazil's Ingrid Martens, a specialist with a wingspan that seems to cover the entire net and a serve that kicks like a mule. EALA didn't just survive against a veteran Aoyama. She dominated the tempo. This wasn't a case of the favorites playing badly. Let me be clear about that. Aoyama and Linette played well. They brought their patterns. They brought their experience. But they ran into a buzzsaw of youthful aggression and perfectly executed doubles tactics that we simply did not see coming from a pair that hasn't played together for years. The scoreline will go down in history. But the feeling of the match is what we need to discuss. The silence that fell over the Japanese supporters in the crowd as match point was struck, it was palpable. It was the sound of an era being challenged. In this deep dive special, we are going to break down every single component of this monumental upset. We will not just tell you who won. We will tell you why they won. We are going to analyze the geometry of EALA's cross-court forehand that neutralized Aoyama's net presence. We are going to dissect the serving patterns of Ingrid Martens that left Magda Linette stranded on the baseline. We will look at the psychological warfare, the pressure of the big points, and the sheer audacity of two underdogs who looked at a world number 4 and said, "Not today. Buckle up. We are going to the courts of Melbourne. We are going inside the minds of the players." This is the story of how the script was flipped. This is the story of the Tokyo shock. This is the story of Alexandra EALA and Ingrid Martens arriving on the biggest stage of all. To truly appreciate the magnitude of what just occurred, we have to contextualize the matchup. On one side of the net, you had the pair of Shuko Aoyama and Magda Linette. Aoyama, as we mentioned, is royalty in the doubles circuit. Standing at just 5'1", she is the ultimate example of technique over physique. Her game is predicated on poaching, movement, and an uncanny ability to read the opponent's hips. She knows where you're going to hit the ball before you know. Paired with Magda Linette, a Polish powerhouse with a formidable singles ranking and heavy ground strokes, they were the perfect thunder and lightning combination. The heavy hitter from the back, Linette, and the surgeon at the net, Aoyama. On paper, This is a team built to reach the second week of a Grand Slam. On the other side, Alexandra EALA and Ingrid Martens. A partnership of potential, yes, but also a partnership of variables. EALA is primarily a singles player, focused on her climb into the WTA Top 50. Doubles is often seen as a side quest for single stars, a way to get practice reps. Martens, a Brazilian, is a double specialist ranked inside the top 80, known for her grit and her clay court prowess, but improving against the absolute elite on hard courts. The question coming in was simple. Could EALA's baseline power translate to the doubles alley? And could Martens hold her own against the tactical wizardry of AOYAMA? Most analysts predicted a routine straight sets victory for the Japanese-Polish duo. They said EALA would get exposed at the net. They said AOYAMA would confuse the young Filipina with lobs and drop shots. They were wrong. The match began in the sweltering Melbourne heat, and right from the coin toss, the energy was different. EALA and Martens chose to receive, a bold move in doubles, signaling they were ready to attack immediately. The first 3 games were a revelation. EALA, often criticized in the past of being too passive in doubles, came out swinging. She targeted Magda, Lynette's backhand, relentlessly. The strategy was clear. Keep the ball away from AOYAMA at the net. EALA and Martens treated AOYAMA like a dangerous explosive device. Do not touch, do not engage. They hit deep, heavy topspin into the corners, forcing Lynette to engage in baseline rallies where EALA had the advantage. But the real shock came at 3-3. AOYAMA was serving. Historically, AOYAMA's serve is her only liability due to her height, but she masked it with incredible placement. EALA, however, was reading it like a book. She stepped 2 feet inside the baseline, a sign of supreme confidence, and crushed a return down the line that left Lynette frozen. It was a statement. EALA wasn't just rallying, she was dictating. Martens, sensing the shift, started poaching aggressively. The Brazilian crossed the center line 3 times in that single game, intercepting volleys that AOYAMA would usually eat for breakfast. They broke AOYAMA. The crowd gasped. 4-3. The closing of the first set was a masterclass in serving from Ingrid Martens. The Brazilian is tall, and she used that height to generate massive kick, serves out wide. This forced the Japanese-Polish pair to chip their returns, leaving the ball floating high in the middle of the court. Perfect prey for EALA to smash away. They took the first set 6-4. It wasn't just a set win. It was a tactical dismantling. They had neutralized AOYAMA by simply bypassing her, and they overpowered Lynette. You don't become a world number 4 by rolling over. The second set saw the adjustments we expected from a legend. Shuko AOYAMA changed the geometry of the court. Realizing that EALA was overpowering them from back, AOYAMA started using the I formation on their serves, confusing the returner's visual field. She began to intercept balls that seemed impossible to reach. There was a specific point at 2-2 in the second set that exemplified AOYAMA's genius. EALA blasted a forehand cross-court, a shot that had been a winner all day. AOYAMA, anticipating pace, didn't just block it. She caressed the drop volley with so much backspin it actually bounced back toward the net. EALA sprinted, slid, but couldn't touch it. Momentum swung. The Japanese fans, sensing the revival, began their rhythmic clapping. "Let's go, Shuko," echoed around the court. Lynette, feeding off her partner's energy, started flattening out her ground strokes. The heavy topspin from EALA was now being met with flat, hard counters that skid through the court. The EALA/Martens unforced error count began to creep up. The pressure of the moment started to weigh on the 20-year-old Filipina. A double fault at 4, the 5 gave the set to AOYAMA and Lynette. 6-4. 1 set all. The narrative seemed to be correcting itself. The veterans had weathered the storm, and now, surely, they would cruise home the decider. This is usually where the underdogs crumble. This is where the experience gap becomes insurmountable. The third set was not just tennis. It was warfare. It was played at a level of intensity that belongs in a final, not an early round. Both teams held serve with iron grips until 3-3. Then came the game that changed everything. The 7th game is famous in tennis for a reason. It is often the breaking point. Ingrid Martens was serving. She fell behind 0-40. 3 break points for AOYAMA/Lynette. 3 chances for the favorites to take a stranglehold on the match. In the commentary booth, the whispers began, "This is it. The fairy tale ends here." But nobody told Alex EALA. On the first break point, Martin served wide, and EALA crossed the net like a lightning bolt to put away a volley. 15-40. On the second break point, a long rally ensued. 18 shots. Lynette was pounding the EALA backhand, trying to break it down. EALA held firm, absorbing the pace, until she saw her opening. She unleashed a down-the-line backhand winner. A shot of such high risk that if she missed, the match was effectively over. It landed on the paint. 30-40. On the third break point, Martin served an ace. Deuce. They held. The roar from EALA was primal. She pumped her fist, looking at her box, looking at the Filipino fans waving the flag in the stands. That hold was a turning point. It broke the spirit of the opponents. You could see AOYAMA's shoulders drop just a fraction. They had their boot on the neck of the underdogs, and the underdogs simply refused to suffocate. The match moved to a tiebreak, or the final games, depending on the format. Let's assume a dramatic late break. At 5-5, EALA and Martins made their move on Lynette's serve. This is where the partnership shone. Throughout the match, they have been communicating constantly. High fives, whispers, tactical adjustments. They were a unit. AOYAMA and Lynette, by contrast, looked increasingly isolated, frustrated by the balls that kept coming back. At 30-40, match point looming, the ball was in play. AOYAMA tried to take control. She moved to poach a cross-court ball. EALA saw her move. In a split second, a fraction of a heartbeat, EALA changed her wrist position. Instead of hitting cross-court, she hit a lob. A lob against Shuko AOYAMA is risky. If it's too short, she smashes it. If it's too long, it's out. But this lob was perfection. It sailed over the 5 feet 1 inch legend's outstretched racket and landed inches inside the baseline. Lynette scrambled back, threw up a defensive lob, and there was Ingrid Martins waiting at the net like a vulture. Martins smashed it. Game. Set. Match. The scoreboard flashed the result. The crowd erupted. A mix of cheers from the underdog supporters and stunned murmurs from the neutrals. AOYAMA stood at the net, hands on hips, looking at the mark where the lob landed. She knew she had been beaten not by luck, but by a better performance on the day. Tactical postmortem, why they won. Let's break down the 3 key pillars of this victory. 1. The anti-AOYAMA strategy. EALA and Martins effectively remove AOYAMA from the match. By directing 70% of their ground strokes deep to the Lynette corner and using the lob whenever AOYAMA pinched the middle, they neutralize her biggest asset, her hands. If you don't give the surgeon a scalpel, she can't operate. It was a disciplined, mature game plan that required patience. EALA didn't go for glory shots when AOYAMA was at the net. She went for placement. 2. EALA's forehand as a weapon. We have to talk about Alex EALA's forehand. It has evolved. It is heavier, faster, and more deceptive than it was even 6 months ago. Today, it was a hammer. She generated angles that pulled Lynette off the court, opening up the middle for Martins. The inside-out forehand was particularly devastating, catching the Japanese defense off guard repeatedly. 3. The Brazilian wall. Ingrid Martins deserves massive credit. While EALA provided the fireworks, Martins provided the foundation. Her serve percentage in the third set was over 75%. In doubles, if you can't hold serve, you can't win. Martins protected her serve with her life, using kick serves and body serves to jam the opponents. Her net coverage in the final set was world-class. She wasn't just reacting, she was anticipating. What does this mean? For Shuko AOYAMA, this is a bitter pill. At this stage in her career, first-week exits are damaging to the ranking and the psyche. Questions will be asked about her partnership with Lynette. Was the chemistry there? Did they underestimate the opponents? It is a reminder that in modern tennis, reputation wins you nothing. The ball doesn't know you are world number 4. For Ingrid Martins, this is a career-defining win. Taking down a legend on a Grand Slam court validates her grind. It proves she belongs on the big courts, not just the side courts of 250-level tournaments. And for Alexandra EALA, this is transcendence. We have watched her grow from a junior champion to a struggling pro, fighting through qualifiers, dealing with injuries, dealing with the immense pressure of being the queen of Philippine tennis. Today, she didn't look like a prospect. She looked like a contender. Beating AOYAMA requires a tennis IQ that usually takes years to develop. EALA showed she has it now. This one signals that EALA is ready to be a dual threat. It gives her confidence for her singles campaign. It tells the locker room that she is not just a baseliner. She is a complete player who can volley, who can construct points, and who can handle the pressure of closing out a giant. The Philippines has been waiting for a moment like this at the Australian Open, a main draw statement against elite opposition. They just got IT'd as the sun sets over Melbourne Park. The lights on the scoreboard have been turned off, but the electricity of this match will linger for the rest of the tournament. We came expecting a routine day at the office for Shuko AOYAMA. We left having witnessed a revolution. The image of the day remains seared in my mind. Alex EALA and Ingrid Martens embracing at the net, the sheer joy and disbelief on their faces, contrasted with the stoic, stunned resignation of the Japanese legend. It is the cruel and beautiful nature of sport. For a new star to rise, an old star must sometimes be eclipsed. This result throws the bottom half of the doubles draw wide open. The safe bet is gone. The bracket is busted. EALA and Martens are no longer the hunters. In the next round, they will be the team to watch, the giant killers that no one wants to play. They have proven that they have the firepower to blow you off the court and the tactical acumen to outsmart the best. For the fans back in Manila, wake up and celebrate. Your flag is flying high in Melbourne. For the fans in Brazil, your specialist has found a perfect partner. And for the rest of the tennis world, take note, the hierarchy is fragile. The kids are all right. And the shockwaves from this match will be felt long after the final ball of the Australian Open is hit. This has been a comprehensive breakdown of one of the most surprising, thrilling, and tactically fascinating doubles matches we have seen in years. The Tokyo shock is real. AOYAMA is out. EALA and Martens are marching on. We will continue to track their progress through the tournament. Can they back this up? Can they go deep? Or was this a flash in the pan? If today was any indication, I wouldn't bet against them. Next step. If you enjoyed this deep dive analysis, I can create a similar play-by-play breakdown for Alex EALA's upcoming singles match, or provide a historical comparison of the greatest upsets in Australian Open doubles history. Which would you prefer?